Thanks, Alexis.
Good morning, folks. Good morning. Thanks very much for carving time out to join us for this morning's early morning today's tech session with the BLU Arc Collective. We are joined by Angela and Krista. So thank you, ladies, for joining us this morning for this session. And thanks to all of you for making it a priority this morning. My name is Alexis Gossick. I'm with the Technology Council of Central PA, and it's really great to see you this morning. Before we jump into today's session, I do want to take a moment to give a shout out to our investors that are either present with us on today's session already or will be joining us at some point in time during today's session. Select Medical, Harrisburg University of Science and Technology, and Members First Federal Credit Union. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. You are the reason that we can continue to do great and wonderful programs like these. Without further ado, Angela and Krista, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to you. I will keep an eye on the door, but go ahead and take us away whenever you're ready.
Sounds great. Thanks, Alexis. Thanks, everybody who's joining us today. I am Angela Dagenhart, co-founder of the BLU Arc Collective, and joining me is Krista Beljan, my partner in this amazing journey that we started a few months ago. So Krista and I have actually known each other for about a decade and have been crossing paths over and over in our professional journey. And last summer, stumbled upon a concept that we've worked together to grow into the framework that is the basis of our company and what we hope to share with you today.
We're really excited because Angela and I have known each other for more than a decade, as she mentioned. But after decades of work in various industries, we know that the future of work depends on more than tools, timelines, and to-do lists. It depends on people. And very often their stories and their habits and their unseen norms and tapped capacity play a factor in that. And so we found in all of our experiences that change in various forms, in various types of organizations, wasn't always happening smoothly. And I'm sure all of you can relate to this. And so we work to equip the people inside those organizations with ways, with processes, with new ways of thinking about leading specifically highly important, high ROI strategic initiatives that will get them through to sustainable transformation.
And a lot of what we found is that the tools that existed in the ecosystem of change were either addressing one side or the other of the problems associated with executing really clean change. And what we found in the building of what we'll share next is our framework is really a bridge between the strategic and the operational and people sides of change. And so we're excited to share that.
And again, when we came across research, more specifically, very specific research last summer, because we've always been talking about this topic, how to help teams move forward, how to help the C-suite leaders that we were either influencing, working alongside, had the opportunity to support in our work. We knew immediately that our purpose and mission was helping those people, but also leading key initiatives to facilitate that successful change in their organization. And so our purpose and mission were already pretty well clear to us when we were ready to launch our organization. And it was such an important moment for both of us.
And something that I found working inside and around specifically technological changes and systems implementations is that oftentimes technologists are there to refine the technology that an organization has chosen to mitigate the work that they're doing. Oftentimes, the organizations misunderstand that that is also going to carry people along for the change. And there are so many reasons why that isn't sufficient, and why oftentimes on the other side, those technological implementations fail to really realize ROI. And so even when people have strong intentions to change, a good portion of the time, they still fail to act because their environment hasn't changed with their intention.
And so what's really interesting is change management is not a new idea, right? It's been around for decades. And to Angela's point, there have been various tools built along the way. Some of them have been more effective than others, but what we were finding is that they weren't really answering what we felt were holistic factors to really help not just the initiative, the idea, the goal move forward, but also the people in the process, whether it was the end user, whether it was the leader of that project or initiative, to be able to make real change happen in a way that wasn't disruptive or extraordinarily costly, or in a lot of experiences that I've had with teams, never really got to the finish line before another initiative took over or took priority. And so again, what you see on the screen are just a few examples of really intentional research that's been done around this, because it is so costly, it is so important, but no one in my experience has had really excellent change management results. And so that's what we went looking for, is how can we make and create solutions or situations where people actually find more success.
And so that's where our 5-lever framework comes into play. And so it is a structured framework that surfaces around what research shows are the 5 human factors that are, when pulled, most aligned to successful implementation of change. And so those 5 levers are, and we'll dive into this a little bit more in the next slide, but intentions, habits, norms, capacity, and attitudes. And so what that framework does for us is helps us diagnose specifically where in people's behavior as they're going through change, there may be barriers or friction or resistance. What is traditionally looked at as resistance, we look at resistance as data, and then be able to diagnose interventions and programs that help to alleviate and mitigate some of those barriers and friction.
What I loved about this when we found the research and really dug into building this framework is that, again, what's in the final box here is what makes our work different is that we're not interested in slowing down your initiative. We're not existing and replacing your existing strategy necessarily. What we do is we come and we help you focus. We help you understand the factors that are going to make this project, this initiative successful. But also we really help teams and specifically C-suite leaders understand the factors that their people will need to understand, whether it's clarity of the why behind the change or whether it's understanding the capacity that that team has to make those changes. So let's dig into that next.
And so we've segmented the work that we do a little bit to help organizations understand really the process of looking at a change initiative, being able to diagnose where it might fail, developing those mitigating actions to help overcome that turbulence and see it through to the end. And so on the left-hand side, Krista alluded to this just a minute ago, we're not looking to re-engineer your complete strategy, but one thing we do need to do is get really clear about what specific thing needs to change and where you might have to let some other things go. One thing that goal achievement research tells us is that oftentimes when you're trying to achieve a goal, the means by which you choose to do that compete with means looking to achieve other goals. And so you've got to make some decisions around what's going to give. Where are we going to have to let some things go for at least a while until we really dial in on what this thing is that we're trying to achieve, implement, what's the new ERP, how are we doing AI, any of those things. As we're formulating what that strategy is for that pursuit, and then diagnosing where that might go wrong, we've what's going to give along the way.
Yeah. And one thing that I'll add here is that I'm sure what we're talking about is raising some questions for you. So we're going to make sure to leave a few minutes to be able to answer any of those questions. So please formulate those, and then we'll give you some time for that. The interesting part here, and this is what in my work more recently, in the past maybe 5 to 7 years, when I was working with a lot of teams specifically, not only in higher education, doing workforce training and various corporate types of development work, but also more recently as a consultant, where I was doing a lot of strategic planning, executive coaching, and leadership development. What I would find is that really great teams would get together specifically for strategic planning. We'd have wonderful conversations, a lot of energy. People would leave the room and go back to their organizations. And not everyone was able to carry those ideas, those goals, that energy, or those initiatives forward successfully. And often it's because many times teams have a lot of things on the list. Even with good coaching and support, folks like to work on a lot of different things. And one of, I think, our differentiators and our strong points is that specifically, as we walk through this process and optimally, we start on the left-hand side with strategy. We work with teams in the center here, which we'll talk about in just a minute, to really understand where some of the hiccups or maybe sticky points might be for people adopting or adapting to the change, and then move forward to full execution, because that's really our goal, is taking it from true strategy and understanding what are we doing and why are we doing it, what's the outcome that we're looking for, all the way through to execution, right?
Yeah.
But
And
as you think about this particular approach, it's important to remember that most teams struggle because they've got too many things on the table. So, as Angela was alluding to, we really focus on that one thing. And I think that's our differentiator, is what is the most important strategic initiative that we can help your team work through and develop that change management muscle to then apply to other areas. Go ahead, Angela.
yeah, and I think, as I've experienced in a new HRIS system for a global conglomerate, ERP implementations, the next phase of our approach, where we look at teams and where amongst those five levers does an organization have risk for failure or fragility. It's once even when intention is really fully grounded with executive teams, old workflows and habits have gravity that pull people back to them, even when the new way has gains. Something we know from behavioral science is that a loss, even a loss of control or a loss of an old way of doing something, has twice as much gravity as a gain does. And so, understanding how to re-engineer workflows so that the old way is impossible. What are the norms? What's rewarded on the floor, despite what's said in the C-suite? If on time and in full is what's rewarded on the floor, even though managers and executives say we know this is going to take a little bit more time, that norm is going to drive behavior, because we in the U.S. care a whole lot about what our manager says, and the further distance power gets from us, the less we hear it. What is the capacity? Krista just said, do people really have the time to be able to incorporate this change in all of the work that they do? Do they have the knowledge, skills, access to tools that they may need to be able to perform in the new way? And how does the change just feel? Is this a positive change? Sometimes change just is negative. Is this a downsizing? And so how do you wrap that in the right communication and support, so that even through difficult change, people can tie what they're doing to value?
What I really love about this process is that we know, both of us, Angela, but also I know that this will resonate with you, that initiatives that aren't tracked, data that isn't monitored, can't be measured or understood. And so throughout this process, again, you'll see on the left-hand side, we create, or the key output that's on kind of the bottom middle, is the key output for each of these. We create a very specific, very clear strategy brief so we understand what we're doing and why. When we look at those 5 levers, we create systems and diagnostic structures to track via literal data tracking or collection of data through surveys, interviews, in-person observations, whatever means we have to watch the change, to pay attention to the specific elements that we know are essential for real behavioral change, but also that leaders can use to leverage or pivot and address or adjust to as the change is going on. Because often what will happen, and what we see and what research proves out, is that you may see progress in one area and another area will slip back. So it's a constant evaluation, a constant attention to this process in the middle specifically, but
Mhm.
also in how we interact with the clients that we support. So the final piece of this, if you look to the full right-hand side, is really helping teams carry this information through to full execution. Again, most of the teams that I've worked with, some of them have experienced really great wins, and that was to carry something through to the finish line and have it be done and implemented, and everyone's really excited and proud of the work, is a wonderful experience for a team. We know that those instances happen less often than we'd like. And so that's really our goal, is to follow this process to ensure that teams understand the importance upfront of clear strategy, clarity, messaging, how leaders align before the change is even implemented. And then all of the other factors that you see on this slide. And I think one of the interesting pieces is that while this is an optimal experience or engagement with a client for us is to move throughout this entire process, we also work in modular fashions. So we understand that teams may be in various stages of planning or project implementation, and we're able to flex to meet teams where they're at and still help them move forward. And one
And
of the
that
things I'm really proud of, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and that extends out to even after initiative is implemented, where we can come in and do a postmortem. And if an organization has gone through a change or an implementation and it's just gone really poorly, we can come in and help them look back and go through the processes of our execution letter to diagnose where it went wrong, to help them vision going forward how to do it differently.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, for teams that do it well, how do they understand what worked so they can now point that energy, that understanding, that
Mhm.
knowledge in a new direction to the next initiative that's on their list, the next priority?
And I
So
think
one of the
that's a
things I'm really
great,
proud of,
I'm probably going to say the same thing, right?
yeah, one of the things I'm really proud of is that we've had experience across a lot of different industries, for-profit, nonprofit, higher ed, family-owned businesses, local, regional, national, and even international that we've both worked in and on or
Mhm.
alongside. And so all of this experience has brought us to this point with the Blue Arc, and we're so excited to be able to share it with you. Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah.
Angela, then we'll take some questions.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I'm also really proud of is that our intention through this is help organizations build change muscle memory, so that the next time they do this, they know how to execute this on their own, or maybe with a
Yeah,
little less help from us.
yeah, we want teams to be independent. So let's take
Yep.
some questions. This is the way to contact us, but we'd love to have a few questions. We've got about 7 or 8 minutes left. Angela, while we're waiting, any other quick insights? For example, our typical client or optimal client is somewhere in mid-market. We, again, can work with organizations that have a change in process or are planning for a change.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can imagine that the earlier we are inserted or allowed to partake in the process, the better,
Yeah.
so that we can really influence and encourage different conversations before any action is taken.
I'm going to chime in for just a minute and say thank you to Krista and Angela and remind everybody that's on the call you have their undivided attention right now. This is a unique time, undivided attention, and a couple minutes left. If anybody has any questions, as a reminder, we are recording the session today. So we will get the recording out to everybody following the session, and then we'll also provide direct contact information for both Angela and Krista in case you're kind of formulating the question, right? If it's percolating, if things are bouncing around and you're going, oh man, they said some things that really resonate with me, but you need some time to work that out, that's okay too. But I'll take another very intentional pause to see if anybody on the call does want to chime in with any questions or feedback, or drop them in the chat if you're not at a good spot to come off mute.
One of the most important things, I think, as we're waiting for folks, is to understand that honestly, the best way to start is just a conversation with us. We're very curious people. We're very interested in learning and understanding without judgment what you've got going on, what might be coming up for you, where things are with either your leadership team or your organization, what you're trying to accomplish. We've got a lot of various research points as well as knowledge that we can help point you to, even if it's just to help you move a little bit further down the road before you want to engage. So again, we have a very abundance mindset kind of approach to our work, and we're always very interested in talking with folks in the community, regardless of what your industry is. We have, we have a lot of proven information that will help you along the way.
We've got one comment in the chat that there might be questions later, but again, you do that percolation piece of kind of mulling over the information. So I can certainly appreciate that. Angela, Krista, thank you so very much for spending time with us this morning. Everybody that joined us, thank you for spending time with us this morning as well.
Absolutely.
I will get that follow-up email prepped and get the video uploaded. And then please, we post the videos publicly on TCCP's website. So if you think there's somebody who might benefit from the information or hearing the overview, please feel free to share the link that I'll pass along. Publicly available, members, non-members, anybody can tap into the information that was shared this morning about the BLU Arc Collective. Those are all the words that I have for you this morning. Again, thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope that everybody has a great rest of the day. Take care, be safe.
Take care, Rue.
Thank you.